Patreon.com/the Walk Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there. Let's talk the true meaning of Moneyball. I know this is a subject near and dear to your heart. Moneyball just means, and I'm saying this sarcastically, heavy value on advanced formulas and algorithms, right? That's all it means?
Oh, no, see, that's the perfect setup, right?
Right.
That's the perfect setup. That's what we think it is. But the idea of Moneyball is just the idea of attacking the game in a way that nobody else is attacking it. Okay. So in that moment, the movie Moneyball is about Billy Beane and this analytical approach that nobody's taking. Really dive into the numbers. Let's stop looking at the players based on whether they have hair on their ass or if their dick has been in the room for 15 minutes already, or like all these weird factors that scouts had previously based. He's a good look. He's got a good face. Like, what does that have to do with whether you're a ball player or not? Right. So they kind of cast all that aside and said, let's just look at the numbers. Let's build a team based specifically off math. We'll get rid of the favoritism, and then maybe we'll take a step compared to the rest of the league. Obviously they did. But the point is, now everybody does it. Now everybody takes the same analytically focused approach to how you build a baseball team. And that's not the only way there is to win. So Moneyball right now would refer to the team that steps out and says, we're going to start bunting. We're going to start doing something that nobody else is doing. We're going to put a bunch of slap hitters out there. We're going to start stealing bases. We're going to start playing the game the way they played it in 1910, because nobody's playing it that way.
Like the Cleveland Guardians.
Sure, like the Guardians did kind of last year. They saw that it was a dead ball year. It felt like they almost made a shift towards that slap base hit style. Just keep annoying you with base hits to the opposite field. And it worked. They put up 10 hits. They get one double. They beat you 5-4 on base hits. And so that's the true meaning of Moneyball is to be able to go against the grain, to be able to say, this is where the league's going, but this is not the only way to a championship. Let's try to climb Mount Everest, on a different route up to the top. There isn't just one route. So that's kind of, and like I said, we're lost in this time period right now where everybody is really trying to do the exact same thing. Everybody's approach is so similar that it's going to be that team that says, you know what, there are different ways to win this game. We don't just have to try to throw hundreds of millions of dollars into the exact same route to the top that everybody else is taking.
So what you're saying, I'm going to paraphrase this as best I can. The spirit of Moneyball is about finding a different way to do it. And in the movie Moneyball, the way that they were doing that was different was this analytics thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now people are congratulating here that the way they chose to buck the trend is what the spirit of Moneyball is. And you're saying, no, it's not how they bucked the trend. It's just that they bucked the trend.
Yes, exactly. It's 100% that. And it's so, I really think that Craig and I should sit down and do the biggest fan of Moneyball and somebody who absolutely despises Moneyball, right?
That's a great episode.
I completely understand where Craig comes from when he talks about his hatred towards Moneyball. I understand it. It is not as authentic to what actually happened. There's a little bit of narrative sway in that movie, right? They never talk about that three-headed dragon of Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, Barry Zito, who were three of the best pitchers in baseball. They don't talk about Eric Chavez, MVP Miguel Tejada, Jermaine Dye. They had some absolute sluggers on that team. That team was a great baseball team. What they do in that movie is they tell a narrative of a general manager who's an underdog, and they focus on him. It's not about the team. It's not about the players. It's about two guys in the front office that are making these weird decisions that everybody's laughing at them for, that turned out to work. So it's this. I remember the first time I saw Moneyball, and I was like, I don't know if I like this movie. The very first time I saw it, I don't know if I liked it, because I was so familiar with that 2001, 2002 Oakland A's team. I love them so much. But then I watched it a second time, a third time, and a fourth time, and 296 more times after that. And I realized that if you can make a movie that grabs a normal audience and it's about baseball stats, like you've done something insanely exceptional. It's got some of the funniest scenes I've ever seen. I think those scenes at the beginning with the scouting room, I still laugh on my 301st viewing every single time I come to there and listen to the way that they talk baseball, because it's some of the most authentic baseball talk that I've ever heard. And so it's just, I would really love to sit down with Craig and try to find that middle ground between us on loving and hating.
I love this idea. Let's make this happen. All right. Speaking of Moneyball, before I move on, as I said earlier, you are helping us write trivia questions for trivia night at the end of the month on Moneyball. So jokingly, you sent me one already. And this is, I'm going to read this right now. What stupid GM gets taken to the cleaners because he doesn't know baseball and uses a committee to make decisions for him? Is it A, Ross Atkins, B, Mark Shapiro, C, Brian Cashman, or D, Dave Dombrowski?
It's very similar to the question that you asked me.
Yeah. So, okay, obviously here, these are shots fired at the Blue Jays front office. Shapiro and Atkins. I want to deep dive that. I don't want to spend too much time, but I want to just pick this apart a little bit from a weird psychological standpoint. Something I'm certainly not qualified to do. Do you view? Because here's what I'm wondering. I know your stance on Shapiro and Atkins, and that you are. I mean, if you had to give them an emoji, you'd probably give them like
a wizard hat.
A wizard hat, yeah. I was going there too. Okay. For anybody just watching the clip, you don't get that reference at all. Go back and watch our clip on wins above replacement. You're a bigger fan of AA, and I'm just wondering if you view, because I know your love for Moneyball, and if Shapiro is, he's not the villain, but he is the
status quo.
He is the status quo. He is the representation of what Moneyball is working, what Billy Beane in Moneyball is working against, right? He is the face of what's broken in baseball in the context of Moneyball, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct? Am I correct in your assessment of that?
Yeah, and let's take.
Everybody was doing it, so no shot against Shapiro for what he was doing in 2002. Literally, that was the status quo. That was what baseball was doing, and Moneyball, the movie, is saying that's a broken strategy, and this is the better strategy that works. So now I want to extrapolate that into 2023, and I'm wondering if that's where your disdain for Shapiro and Atkins comes from. Is that it's because not necessarily entirely the moves that he has done or that they have done for this Blue Jays team, but maybe at a subconscious level, it is based on the fact that he is the figurehead of quote unquote what is wrong with baseball in your favorite movie of all time. Like, do you think if in Moneyball instead of Shapiro it was Brian Cashman, do you think there was no mention of Mark Shapiro in your favorite movie of all time as being what's wrong with baseball? Do you think you would have a maybe more neutral opinion of him, or am I reading too much into this?
I like it. I like it. I think I kind of want to go sit on my couch.
I was just going to say, go lay down on the couch and tell me how you feel.
Look up at I like throw a baseball up at the ceiling like Charlie Sheen in Moneyball or in Major League. Is that true? Let's say it might be a little bit true. Okay. It might be a little bit true because he is like the GM who's got a committee who's making his decisions for him in the movie. He's sitting there and they're like, hey, what do you think about Garcia? And he goes, what do I think about Garcia? And he looks around the room. No, I don't. I like Garcia. I like him. I guess I like Garcia.
So they kind of paint him as a
a committee man.
Kind of he's not a great baseball mind at that, the way he's portrayed in the movie, right? Okay.
Now, Now,
So, and here's the other thing, because I know you're also an AA guy.
who am I ever?
Big fan of what Alex Anthopolous is doing down in Atlanta. Can we, again, back to what is the true meaning of Moneyball? If we're gonna say it's just about bucking the trend. It's not how they bucked it. It's that they bucked it.
Yes.
Is that what Alex Anthopolous is doing down in Atlanta with the way he's doing contracts? And is that why you love Alex Anthopolous? Is because he's doing Moneyball by bucking the trend contract wise?
Yeah, he's 4D
Okay.
chessing it with these contracts where I've always looked at the history of baseball and I've said, spend your money 20 to 30. Spend your money 20 to 30. Don't spend 30 to 40. You
You don't like the
cannot
Albert Pujols contract?
do not like that. Do not like Griffey contract. Do not like anything where you expect a guy to produce his 20 to 30 numbers from 30 to 40. Never believe that. And I like the idea of a 21-year-old center fielder that can go out there and get it. Michael Harris. I love the idea of what they've built there. They've locked up there. You know me. To me, there's everything is locked up. Everything has team option deals. They're dominant and going to be competitive through 2032. Okay, because he sat there and said, the first 3 years of your contract is where the Atlanta Braves are going to take advantage and sign people. As opposed to getting to arbitration, we can lock you up when you're making 750 grand a year because we're going to say 10 million. You prove it in the first 50 games, you've proven it to us because we know you so well that we're going to lock you up at 21 because we got those 3 years where you're going to be making 750 grand. And wouldn't you like to make 30 million in those first 3 years instead of 2.1? And then they're like, yeah, sign me up for that. You're going to be rich guaranteed by the time you're 24. You're going to be able to help everybody in your life right now. And then we're going to sign you for another 7-8 years, a few team options at the end, and everything's great for everybody. And you're spending money on youth. And to me, that's a 4D Moneyball chess move to set yourself up for a juggernaut dynasty.
I'm with you. I'm still a little concerned about how this locker room is going to feel when there are 7 superstars that are all being underpaid. I understand the risk and that it was a good contract for them, and then you sign your contract and you honor it, and it is what it is. But there's a certain point where like 7 guys are all looking around the room and they're going, "We're getting like we're amazing, and we're getting paid like we're Bo Bichette in his first year of arbitration right now. This is fucking bullshit." So
Yeah,
I just wonder if there's at some point going to be a mutiny where we're going to be like, "Oh yeah, that worked out for 5 years, and then it was a disaster." Maybe. We're starting to see some inklings with Ronald Acuna Jr. I know there was like a wild rumor that he was demanding a trade. I don't put any stock in that. It's just Twitter stuff. But he did change his agents in the offseason. He's several years away from needing an agent at this point. So there's a little bit of displeasure there. I know he has family members coming up and that they're going with a different agent. And I feel like he wants to be with his cousin and younger brother or whatever. But that also feels like, hey guys, do not do what my agent did because my agent kind of screwed me here. And I don't think that's true. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. I should actually just take all that out. I regret saying
I came back with the side of it like, how could you not be Ronald Acuna and the happiest guy in the world? You've got $100 million coming to you. You're 25 years old. You have a World Series ring that you did nothing for. Nothing. You just sat there and your team won you a World Series.
Okay, that is not. If you're Ronald Acuna Jr., you're not like bragging about your World Series ring. No, but nothing to do it.
Just imagine getting one and not having to do anything for it, right? That's pretty sweet. Knowing that your team is World Series winning, has the ability to do it without you, and that you're a generational talent. So you plus that already World Series winning team, that's a pretty good combination.
How'd they do in the playoffs last year?
Oh, once again, Acuna was not Acuna last year.
Okay.
He wasn't. But
okay. Well, that contract doesn't look so good then, does it?
Well, 5 straight division wins and that team locked up the way that it's locked up. That team's going to be rolling the dice for World Series for the next 5-6 years.
If I'm Ronald Acuna Jr., am I happy that I have $100 billion in the bank? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But am I also like frustrated that I'm seeing all of my peers get like 250, 300 million, and I'm like, not, yeah, I mean, I'd be frustrated for sure. Um, I'm a big football guy. I've watched for the last several years guys like Aaron Rodgers and these quarterbacks at the top of the league who signed these big long deals be like miserable and frustrated as these like young new wave of rookie quarterbacks are getting double the money that Aaron Rodgers has a whole trophy case full of hardware and he's
Mhm.
getting half as much as Derek Carr, and the frustration that is inevitable for those guys, that feels inevitable for a Ronald Acuna Jr. And I feel like we're starting to see some cracks in the surface there. I don't know. Look,
Maybe.
AA doing what he's doing. It's an interesting experiment. I will for sure give you that what he's doing is quote unquote the new Moneyball. Like this is he's bucking the trend.
Yeah, he's doing
It's
something no one
working.
else.
He's got a World
And
Series ring, so it's worked.
Houston grabbed their scouting, the head of scouting for Atlanta, and he's now their GM.
Okay.
Just signed Christian Javier to the 5-year, $68 million deal. Now it's spreading to Houston. And Houston even says the Atlanta method is the way to win a World Series. Lock up your core group, your young core group, lock them up, and then ride that thing.
I just want to go back to Ronald Acuna Jr. and his World Series ring.
Yeah.
I don't think if I was Ronald Acuna Jr., I would never wear that ring.
Really?
Never. Look, does he deserve the ring? 100% yes. He was a contributing member to that team that got them to the playoffs, right? If he's not there for the first, 60, 100 games of the season, right? Like he contributed to their record and whatever. Like I know they weren't like a 100-win team, but like even just miss him for 100 games more and they're probably going to lose 4 or 5 extra games, maybe miss the playoffs altogether. So like I get that. He definitely deserves the ring, but also definitely he should not be showing up at the ESPN Awards sporting his World Series ring. I would cringe at that.
I got you, but he was a very happy man when they won that World Series. And
Sure, he's happy for his teammates, but he's got to be.
That's what I'm saying. Would you rather be on a team that hasn't sniffed that success, and you've been on the team for 5 years, or you're on a team that has won a World Series and you were injured for it, and
but
you
know
knew
how
that
hard it is to win a World Series, Joel? And the Atlanta Braves statistically probably won't while he's playing baseball. Like all things being equal, it's a 1 in 30 shot. You take off the 10 bottom teams, right? You take off the Oaklands and the whoever's, right? So maybe you got a 1 in 20 chance. And then again, that's league average. Best case scenario, you're the Dodgers or the Astros, or sure, we can throw the Braves in there. And it's like, what, a 1 in 10 chance, maybe? So we're saying in 10 years, maybe the Braves win one more World Series.
I'm just got 2 rings to plug his ears.
I think chances are he doesn't get to sniff a chance at that again. So that would be a real tough spot for me to be like, when I go to the banner ceremony the next year where they're raising it, would I wear my ring? Yeah, for sure. And I'd be happy for my boys, but also I'd be like, that was my chance. And I mean, you can't blame the contract on an injury or whatever, but like
nobody's
to
clicking
say
on
he's
his
just
baseball reference page 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and saying that World Series isn't real underneath his name.
No, they're not saying it's not real, but let's just say, okay, do you think that World Series rings
doesn't go away?
No, but do you I know it's gonna be on his Wikipedia page forever. Do you think World Series champion is a relevant measurement when it comes to Hall of Fame case? Never mind never mind this specific one with Ronald Acuna Jr. But if a guy has like decent numbers, he has like thumbs up emoji numbers on his career. He's Joe Carter, but he has 7 World Series rings versus a guy with slightly better numbers, no World Series. Like, do you think that there's value in a guy who is just a champion?
Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely. So let's flash forward crystal ball, and then we'll get out of here and we'll talk players report to spring training. But do you think in 20 years, in 15 years from now, Ronald Acuna Jr. retired from baseball. 5 years later, he's on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. Do you think the voters for the Hall of Fame in 2040, whatever, when they're looking down his list of stats, do you think they're actually looking at, oh, yeah, in 2019, what year did they win the World Series? 2021?
21. Yeah, 20 was.
Oh, in 2021, he won a World Series. That's a check mark on his Hall of Fame application. Do you think people are doing that? Or do you think people are also going, wow, yeah, he got a ring, but like, he wasn't really a part of it. Like, he has a World Series ring the way like Sean Green has a World Series ring with the Blue Jays. Like, yeah, he was technically on the roster, but played like a handful of games, contributed nothing to that World Series.
Yeah, he's got a World Series ring. Absolutely.
No way.
Just as plain as simple as that. He's got the ring. He was a great player. It's not like it was a rookie season where he was not legitimately on the team. He was injured. He was a core member. He wasn't there for their run. And I totally agree with you that he doesn't feel like he's a part of it the way that he wants to feel like he's a part of it. But at the end of the day, that World Series champion is there. And when I look at when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Joey Votto and I go, this guy's got no postseason success in his life. I go, this guy doesn't get my attention. This guy never had a clutch moment. This guy was never a playoff player. So that's an absolute distinction that I would make between a guy who's got World Series champion connected to his name and a guy who's got jack shit connected to his name when it comes to winning.
So Carlos Delgado, 2-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger.
Yeah.
1-time World Series champion. Won a World Series with the Blue Jays in 1993. Correct? We can agree on that?
Was on the team for 13 games, something like that?
1993, he had 2 games, 2 plate appearances, 1 walk.
Don't think that qualifies.
It does. It has to.
Okay.
He contributed. He appeared World Series champion, Carlos Delgado.
World Series champion, Carlos
Delgado. Man, look. We talk baseball cards off the top of this. I want a special edition baseball card where it's Carlos Delgado and it's Ronald Acuna Jr. and they're splitting a glass of champagne and they're both wearing their rings that they didn't really contribute to, but totally deserve. Okay, can we end on that note?
Sure.
Okay. Thanks for having fun, Joel. I appreciate you.